What's up, YouTube? Right along with us as we pick up the third trailer for this trip and explore some of southern Utah.
We don't need a destination, let's go where the river's taking us.
We left the Gold Butte area of Nevada early one morning. The plan was to make our way into St. George, Utah. This is where we would meet Lauren from XGRID Campers and go to Atlas Outdoors, home of the Teton X. Our travels this morning would take us through a real treat along I-15, and that's the Virgin River Canyon. We met at St. George and met up with Lauren, and we got our first look at the amazing Teton X.
It has one does too, so it's really exciting to get it out in front of more people. Get you guys heater, but
after a thorough walkthrough of this awesome adventure trailer, we were hooking up and on our way. The plan for this evening was to go set up camp at one of Atlas Outdoors' favorite places just outside of St. George, and that's where we would camp with them and Lauren for the night. Once we got to camp, leveling up was super easy with the air suspension. One really nice thing about these hybrid trailers is they're very easy to set up. In no time, you've got camp ready to go. The place that we had picked to camp was unbelievable. It was sitting right on the edge of a mesa overlooking the Zion National Park. The next morning, we woke up to a beautiful but chilly sunrise. Once everybody had packed up and made their way out, we did the same. We had some sites along southeastern Utah that we wanted to check out. Now, the southwestern part of Utah is definitely something that you don't want to skip, but we've got plans to be back in this area later on in the year. Was mostly road, but there was all kinds of beautiful sights along the way. We did make a few short stops, and anytime you see a buffalo, you gotta stop, right? While you're driving, you never know when somebody may need some help. As we were passing these two gentlemen here and their U-Haul trailer, we realized that their trailer was on fire from apparent bearing seize up. It was one of those things, we just happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right equipment to help these gentlemen out. What was left of the bearing in the axle was so hot that it kept reflaring up, so we were able to pull the Teton over and use the outside shower system to be able to cool it off so it wouldn't reignite.
Besides camping, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, tire fire is about as bad as you can get because once they get going.
We made our way on east, checking out places like the Glen Canyon Dam and Lake Powell. Once we left the Page, Arizona area, we made our way on through the Navajo Nation reservation and drove well into the night and deep into the fog before finding a campsite just outside of Blanding, Utah. The next morning we took care of some maintenance that was needed on the Gladiator in Blanding, and then we headed back west just a little bit, retracing our steps. We were going to be going to a couple places that we had passed in the dark. The first real place to catch our eye this morning was the Twin Rocks Cafe, where we had some incredible breakfast. What you got?
I can't pronounce it. But there's fried.
This is something that we had been wanting the whole trip. Some authentic Native American food, complete with blue corn pancakes. By this point, the fog was starting to lift, which was giving a whole new perspective on our surroundings. One of the locals told us here that they very rarely ever get fog, but when it does set in, it sets in for several days. Wouldn't you know, we would bring it with us. We were lucky in the first part of this trip, though, because the sites that we were looking for wasn't far off in a vista. It was some cave dwellings. There was a hiking path to these, but it was just a little bit too chilly for us to make the trek this morning. For those of you that like to follow along with us on a map, we're in the Butler Wash just outside of Bluff, Utah. This area, Butler Wash and Comb Ridge, is very rich in Anasazi and Pueblo history. We've been to the desert a few times, but the fog over this morning definitely gave it a different feel. By around noon, the fog had started to burn off and we could start to see things more off in the distance. In addition to the history, the colors and the textures of this area is just incredible. We climbed our way out of the Butler Wash onto Utah Route 95, and this is where we turned west again and stopped for another history lesson. This part of Route 95 is part of the Trail of the Ancients, and our next stop was going to be the Butler Wash ruins. It's about a half-mile hike out to the overlook for the ruins, and it's definitely worth the trip. It's not a difficult hike at all. It's hard to believe that a whole colony of people lived here 700 years ago. Based on this information, this was a complete colony, complete with habitation, ceremonial areas such as kivas, places for food storage, and places for tool making as well. After taking a walk several hundred years back through time, it was time for us to get back on the road. We made the trip across the Comb Ridge and into the Comb Wash, and this is where we would head south again and explore that wash. Not far off of the blacktop, we found a nice little place in the cottonwoods to stop and have some lunch. While the Cummins Wash doesn't have as many ancient ruins as the Butler Wash, it still has its place in time and is also still very beautiful in its own way. After a long day of exploring, we wanted to get to camp before dark. We had a special spot picked out, and it was a place that we've always wanted to camp. The Goosenecks State Park is located just north of Medicine Hat, and this river is absolutely incredible. It winds 6 miles through this canyon in a distance of only a mile. The canyon here is about 1,200 feet deep, and we were fortunate enough to be able to set up all alone right on the edge of this canyon. As we looked off to our south and west, we could see parts of Monument Valley. There's just something special about waking up right on the edge of these canyons like this. And to be able to have a kitchen to where you can fix your breakfast and enjoy your coffee with a view like this is just another added bonus. We could have sat here and looked at this view all day, but there were some other areas that we wanted to explore. Not far from camp, we made our way into the Valley of the Gods. This is another one of those places in southeastern Utah that if you're ever here, you don't want to miss it. This has been on our bucket list for a long time, and we finally made it, and it was certainly worth the trip. Much like a lot of other southern parts of Utah, the rocks in this area were deposited in a shallow sea about 250 million years ago, and over time the water retreated. Ancient sandstones and shells gradually turned red or purple as the iron in the rocks mixed with the oxygen and formed rust. After leaving the incredible Valley of the Gods, it was time to check out another iconic rock formation in this area, the namesake of Mexican Hat. Mexican Hat is in close proximity to Monument Valley and Valley of the Gods, and you can see it from the road, but if you take the dirt road that goes around the back of it, you really get a good view of it and the valley behind. This was just an out and back trail, and we typically don't do out and backs, but this one was worth the drive out here. Another thing we like is slot canyons, and when we first seen this off in the distance, we thought it was going to be another slot canyon, but it ended up being just a waterfall of sorts. It probably was a waterfall or is a waterfall when it's wet, but it looks like this tumbleweed just kind of falls off the mesa up above and fills this up. After leaving what we thought was going to be a slot canyon, we made our way back out along the back road here on Mexican Hat to the blacktop and back into town to find some lunch. We had gotten our fry bread for breakfast, but now we wanted it for lunch, in the way of a Navajo taco. What you got there, buddy?
Navajo taco. That I've been waiting the whole trip for. Now I got it.
After having a delicious lunch, it was back to exploring. Next, we wanted to make our way up on top of the Cedar Mesa. And the best way to do that, in our opinion, was the Moki Dugway. The Moki Dugway, what is that? Well, we were wondering the same thing when we first heard about it. But the word Moki comes from the Pueblans, and Dugway means a roadway that's dug into the side of a cliff. Now, this is actually a Utah highway. It's Highway 261. It was originally built in the 1950s as a way to get uranium ore from the top of Cedar Mesa down to Mexican Hat. I'm sure when they built it, their only purpose was to be able to get resources off the top of the mesa. But what they ended up building was a scenic drive unlike no other. The multiple switchbacks in this climb makes it fairly easy. It's only about a 10% grade, but over the course of 3 miles, it gains a little over 1,200 feet. After we had driven on the Cedar Mesa for a while, we turned on to the appropriately named Snow Flat Road. This trail ended up being our favorite of the whole trip. It wasn't too difficult, but it did give us a little bit of a chance to see what the Teton X was capable of, and I think we only touched the surface with it. We can't wait to put it through more difficult trails. Every time we come to Utah, we find something new and something different. It never ceases to amaze us, and we can't wait to get back every time we leave it. Again, we've made it to another part of the state that we just barely scratched the surface of, and I can guarantee that we'll be back to explore a lot more of it. We really hope that you've enjoyed riding with us on the last 3 episodes as we made our trip out west to see XGRID Campers in Las Vegas and to have the opportunity to explore a few different trailer models. If you're interested in any of these, you can check them out at XGRID Campers either in Knoxville or Las Vegas. If Arizona, Nevada, or Utah have ever been places that you think you might want to go, I can guarantee you if you take the time and make the trip, you will definitely enjoy each and every one of those states. We certainly appreciate everybody that watches the channel. And if you like what you see on the channel, please do us a favor and subscribe. Only about 15% of our viewers are actually subscribed, and that would really help us, and we would appreciate it If you want to further support us and see where we've been and see where we camp, you can subscribe to our Patreon, where all of our tracks and our campsites are listed. Deb and I thank you again for riding along with us, and until next time, see ya.